Hola amigos, bien ok. Entonces, buenas noches desde Medellín. Otro día muy ocupado, pero todo bien. Hoy es el día 18, day 18 con este proceso. Y también otro día con mucho nuevos verbos, reglas gramáticos y cosas con esta forma. Pero yo quiero expresar algunos más pensamientos con este tema y reflejar un poco más con la idea, como dice, el por qué nosotros estamos estudiando otra lengua. So today, day 18 of our process. Yes, good, much the same. A bit more grammar and verbs again today. But this got me to thinking, really, when we look at it, why are we, any of us, really studying these other languages? What are we doing this for? It's not just about learning words and memorizing verb tables. After all, it's really to help us to communicate. We want to be able to communicate with other people around us, or in the new country we're ending up in, or the new job we're working in. So communication is really what it's about. It's not just about memorizing long lists of verbs and things like that. And some of that's necessary, sure. We need to know and understand how these rules function so we can communicate better. But at heart, the core of this really is just so we can communicate with the other people around us. And this got me thinking that particularly now we're talking about learning a second language, not our lingua maternal, not our maternal language, but a second language. We as adults particularly have a great opportunity to take better control over the language we learn. Because it's not just now about learning all the words possible and all the verbs. We can be quite selective. We can actually choose to focus on the words and phrases that are most useful, most helpful, even perhaps the most productive for us to use. I thought this is a really interesting idea. I'm going to come back to that a bit more at length, maybe in one of my blog posts soon, maybe even tomorrow, if I'm able to. But if we think about it, really, we're learning the language so we can communicate better with other people. But because we know the sort of things we want to communicate about, the stuff we like talking about, the kind of ways we're going to use the language, maybe in our jobs or things like that, we can indeed be quite selective in what language we use. And we can be very conscious of what language is most useful, what's most productive, what language gets us the best connection with new people we're talking to, what language helps us get better results in our conversations, what language helps us to be better understood, for people to be more sympathetic to us and our views. So we can actually choose, or in some sense we can engineer a better result in our conversations just because we don't have the same type of baggage that we have in our maternal language. Because in our maternal language, we didn't get to be selective about the language we heard, the language we were taught. It's just a process. We pick it up, we absorb it as children around us, all the words that are around about us in our culture, and then we get to select some of them, but by that time we've already created patterns of the language we generally use. Whereas now, where we have our second language that we are learning, and often we're learning for a purpose, we're learning with an end view in mind, even if it's just we're going on holiday and I need to be able to speak, when I'm at the airport or when I'm at the hotel, we have an end purpose in mind that we didn't have when we were learning our own language as children. So think about it. we have a good opportunity now. We can actually be very selective in the type of language we bother to learn. Because, all right, the more vocabulary we have, it's more helpful to us because we can identify more quickly what the surrounding conversation is about. But in terms of language that we ourselves are going to use in our new language, we can be quite selective now about the most useful, effective phrases or sentences to employ in particular situations. So that's something to think about. And again, it's kind of what I was trying to talk about the other week when I was saying let's try and reduce the amount of vocabulary or phrases you need for a specific situation. If you could be very specific in describing that situation and the type of conversation you want to have or the result you need to get, you can again be very selective in the words and the phrases you're going to use. So again, partly it helps us not need to memorize so much vocabulary, but also we can be very specific in describing the exact sentences we want to use in that situation, and we can think ahead to which of these sentences will actually be the most productive or the most useful, most beneficial for us to use. So that, I think, is going to be my topic for my blog tomorrow. That's just to share with you the thoughts as I'm thinking about them now. Déjame saber en los comentarios. Let me know in the comments. What do you think? I mean, not just why are you studying the language now, but what are you going to use it for? I mean, what kind of result do you want to get out of using the language? Even if it's to say, well, I need to study a language for my job, well, what type of job? What kind of result do you want from your job? How successful do you want to be with your job? What type of work are you doing with it? So in that sense, how do you need to employ the language? What do you need to use the language for? If it's for having more conversations with other people, again, think about what type of phrases we can use to give us more productive, more, let's say, happier conversations, perhaps. That's our thought for the day. So wherever you are, Feliz Noche, desde Medellin, and see you tomorrow. Cheerio for now.